Most of the time, our words should be soft and tender, sweet and kind. But because we love people and we really do care about them, and their hearts are hard and really tough, and they're resisting and they're fighting and they're against stuff, and their hearts are really hard, sometimes it's important to do a different way of trying to get them if they keep resisting the softness, the tenderness, the kindness, the gentle. And then you have to become very severe. You have to become tough. And that's what Jesus did. Now, Jesus is the most tender, softest, sweetest, most gentle person there is in the universe. He and God the Father. They're just really, really, really sweet. Excuse me. He's the sweetheart of a God. Both of them. And, but he's also very tough and hard. And remember the whip? Remember he took the inside of probably the court of the Gentiles in the court in the temple, God's house, and he threw tables, and he took a whip and whipped it. That was earlier in his ministry. I think he did it twice in his ministry, but at least once. I mean, anyway, we'll go over that when we get to those stories. Now, Jesus had just talked to, I think, his disciples. He focused on them to be humble and to be a servant and not to exalt yourself and all. Then he picked the hammer back up. He didn't pick an actual hammer up and pound the heads, the hard heads of the Pharisees and scribes and all. But he took his words and he used it as a hammer. As a matter of fact, one of the prophets in the Old Testament said that. I think it's Jeremiah. But anyway, started coming down on him again. Took that judgment, those words of judgment. At this point, he turned away from mercy and words of judgment. And yet, even in the words of judgment, there was mercy. How'd that happen? He's being merciful by telling them what they're doing wrong and that they got to change. He's actually putting a mirror in their face and saying, look at what you're like. And he started coming down on the Pharisees. And this is what he said to them. Well, I'll say this real quick. The next 8 things he said, woe unto you 8 times. Now, one of them, just a quick mention, the one that we're talking about in the next verse, which maybe I don't have to mention it now, could be kind of added in there. It's not in a lot of the manuscripts, so it could have been 7 different times. But in Matthew's gospel, he recorded 8, and I'm good with this. It makes sense. And he recorded 8 different times. In his last call to these people, this is his last public call to the scribes and the Pharisees and the multitudes there. It's his last time in the temple before he was raised from the dead, and he hasn't been there since. This is his last time to talk to the Pharisees and scribes, so it's his last chance. It's like he's been soft, got harder and harder. They're still not responding good. It's kind of like a parent or even government, a good government. They start out easy, a little punishment. First you tell the people, hey, kids, do this. Kids who keep doing it, you get harder and harder in your punishments. And maybe you get grounded for a week after a while if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And maybe it's a month. And maybe it's the next 10 years until you turn to 18 or something. I'm teasing. But anyway, so Jesus Christ has taken his megaphone, basically, and he's kind of slamming them. He's really coming in with all weapons out with his words and no holding back this time. And man, did he get strong. Woo! There's no words that Jesus spoke more severe than what he said in Matthew 13. Oh, and let's keep it in mind that as you're studying with me, as we're exploring what he said, those words can also come nowadays. Absolutely. There are scribes and Pharisee type people nowadays. In churches, there's a lot of great churches, a lot of people of God, that's sweet people of God, obeying God. There's a lot of them that are full of hypocrites and people that aren't really living right and really bad leaders. So as you get older, if you're a child in this or a teenager, and let's say you move away from your home, be careful on who you're going to go to, what church. That doesn't mean you get scared and don't go to church. The Bible teaches to go to church. Okay, it really does. But, like Hebrews 10, for example, verse, I think it's 25. But you need to be careful and find out what those leaderships are like. Okay, the leadership. Remember, Jesus mentioned that there are wolves in sheep's clothing. You know, sheep's clothing is like they act like they're sheep of God's pasture. They're actually wolves. So he said these phrases right here 7 times, or Actually, he said, woe 7 times. These right here. Really got down on them. Okay, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. He said it like that 7 times. Oh man, I think it's 8 times he said it, actually. Yeah, 8 total. And so he said, woe unto you, and then scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites. Woe means, like, hard to figure out what that means. It really can mean different things, like alas, in other words, grief and sorrow and sadness to you, lamentations, lamenting, oh, woe unto you, how sad. Or it's woe unto you, like curses unto you, cursed are you. Or, you know, things like misery is coming on you, or really more like a judgment. Judged are you, God is coming down on you. And it could be right then and there, or it's going to come up really soon in your future. Woe unto you. By the way, in the Old Testament it's mentioned quite a few times. Like in Isaiah it mentions woe a lot of woes. But anyway, woe unto you, and then judgment or curses unto you. And by the way, it's interesting, the same, almost exact same number in Matthew chapter 5. Remember, blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who mourn and meek and hunger and thirst after righteousness, those who are merciful, pure in heart, persecuted, blessed are those whom men shall revile you. There's 8 total ones, and there's 7. The 8th one, in my opinion, is more of the reaction or the results of you being so good. It's blessed are you that people are going to hurt you or persecute you. But the 7 of them are kind of like it's kind of interesting. It's the same number of the opposite. Woe unto you, woe unto you, woe unto you. Again, kind of know that phrase right here. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Who are the scribes and Pharisees? Well, you probably know by now. Scribes are basically those who are experts in the law, lawyers, teachers of the law. They teach a lot. Pharisees are that one sort of sect that was the most popular, and they were the most probably looked upon as the most holy and really good people. But they weren't, because they were hypocrites. Do you remember what hypocrite means? There's a history, like a thread that starts out one thing and goes to another, but it ends up being, hypokritos, being basically play actors. He's saying, woe unto you, you fakes. By the way, I don't like fake. Do you like fake people? You like what they... Now, we love them as individuals, or just like Jesus loves them. He didn't say, I'm not going to go around those Pharisees. But he went and reached for them. He was reaching a long arm out there, really trying to shake them up, but they didn't move, most of them. But remember, the Pharisee he's calling scribes and Pharisees hypocrites, like the wolves in sheep's clothing, or the person who is a play actor, a pretender, a person who gets on the stage and acts something that they're not really. It's not really their person. You know, like, let's say you're a really good person and wonderful and sweet and on you, and you get on a stage and you're in a drama, a play or a movie or something, and you're acting like you're a villain, like you're evil or something. Well, this is what they were doing. They were really, truly, what word, truly? They were truly untrue. They were truly pretenders. And are you a pretender? Are you a play actor? Do you live right all the time? Now, do we make mistakes? Yes. And I've been a hypocrite at times, or I did something that I am definitely against. But that's not the same as a character of a real heart of a hypocrite, where you're really pretending to be good. I admit, I fail. They tended not to want to be admitting that. They were hypocrites in that they were hiding their hearts. See, they were taking their heart on the outside like this, and their heart, can you see that right there? And they had all this beauty, like, see that, all that, I don't know if you can see the artwork on this. You know, there was artwork here, and it's kind of like, oh, look how beautiful they are, beautiful artwork, design. Their hearts are like this, but on the inside, you know what they were like, right? They were empty. They didn't have a good heart, a tender heart. They didn't have love coming out of that heart. See, Jesus was going against them and their lack of love and their emptiness. They didn't have God's Spirit in it. And he was coming against their hearts. He was trying to reach their hearts, and he was coming against their dealings externally. But inwardly, in the heart, not there, child, not good. So he said, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. And then he goes on and explains what that is. He says, for you, this is what he said to him. He says, for you shut up. You shut up. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven. You shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. See, they were they were actually keeping people out from coming into the kingdom of heaven at that time. And nowadays, there's people that actually do that. They are used by the devil, really, to keep people from coming to God. They put all these obstacles and they close the door in their face and say, shut up. That's what Jesus said, shut up. They actually shut up the kingdom of heaven unto men. And then he says, for you do not enter yourselves. They're not entering in. And by the way, these scribes and Pharisees, these leaders, so-called leaders, they were the ones that's supposed to be leading people into it. They were the teachers. And so they weren't doing it right. Why? Because their teachings were wrong. They taught really severe, hard things, and they put burdens on people and added more and more, and they added oral tradition, and they went beyond the Bible. And remember the grievous and heavy burdens on people that they were putting in. He spoke about that earlier in his speech here. And then they weren't, the problem with them is they didn't recognize Jesus. They weren't sharing who he was. He was the answer. He was the Messiah, the promised Messiah, where they were shutting people out of accepting Christ. They kept arguing with him. Oh, this guy's, being led by the devil. This Beelzebul is the spirit that's working in him, the chief of the devils. And they kept, trying to turn people away by contradicting Jesus and trying to test him and all that. They were trying to put doubt in the minds of people in the crowds. They were shutting up the kingdom of heaven from people. And maybe some of the men and women and all, they were going like, yeah, I guess these are the teachers and here's Jesus and what they're saying, okay, they had a choice. And a lot of them did not enter into the gate. There's a gate. There's a door. There's a way into to come to Jesus, to come to God. And it's through Jesus. This is my little figure. I don't think he really looked like this, but hey. Here's Jesus right here. We'll represent him as Jesus. And he actually was the way to go in. Jesus later says, I am the door. He's actually the door itself. But he's kind of open. I don't know if you see his hand here. He's like, here, come on in. He's going like this with his left hand. Come on in, come on in. Well, the Pharisees and all were trying to keep Jesus, they were kind of like this. They were like, a bull right there. And who wants to come through the bull with these horns? And they were actually, you'll see later in some of the scriptures, they threatened people if they started believing in Jesus, they're not allowed in the temple and things like that. I mean, it's like they were really horrible. Now, by the way, Jesus also said in another passage in Luke, he's talking to the lawyers, the scribes. He said, you have the key of knowledge and you took that key away from him. There's a key to enter into the door. Like you have a key to open the door. And that key is knowledge, the key of knowledge. And they didn't want to really, they did not accept the knowledge of Jesus and what he was saying and who he was. And so Jesus said here, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men, for you neither go in yourselves, they don't go in themselves, neither do they allow them who are wanting to go in. They're not allowing them to go in, to enter in. He says, neither suffer or allow you them that are entering to go in. They're entering right then. They're trying to enter and they don't allow them to go in. So that's a really serious charge against the Pharisees and scribes. And so I would just encourage you, child, to be careful that you don't be a hypocrite and that you come to Jesus yourself. And he's the one that can lead you right through that gate, right into heaven, into the kingdoms of heaven. And then later you'll actually enter into real consummated, the full heaven when he brings his kingdom down. You'll be able to go in the city. And those who did not receive Jesus will not go into the city. And don't let him come down at the end of time with judgment against you in the court. And you will go to court. And I'll go to court and answer for my life. And so don't let him say to you, woe unto you, and then name your name, Gordon, hypocrite, for you, and then names the stuff. In these next videos, I'll do one at a time, and we'll talk about each 8 of the things that he said here. and we'll explore the things that we want to make sure that are not in our lives and that were in theirs. Okay, thank you for listening.